News 2, Christian Morgan, meteorologist, jumping in this morning. Let's talk about Debby and where Debby is right now. It is our Debby day across the Piedmont, and it's a News 2 weather impact alert day for that reason. Heavy rain continues really coming down in sheets across the area this morning. We do still have that rare high flood risk for our entire Piedmont area for today. And our winds now are starting to pick up, and by the middle of the day, I expect they'll be gusting 35 to 45 miles per hour. So it is a News 2 weather impact alert day. For that reason, you can bank on that torrential rain being with us all day long. Maybe not continuous, but it will come in rounds, especially by the afternoon, where it may rain really heavy for a while. And there's some dry time, then kind of rinse and repeat through the rest of the evening. I will tell you, if you don't have to be out driving in it today, better to really park it at home today. So be alert, watch for flooded roads, and we can tell you not to drive through flooded roads until we are blue in the face. But you'd be surprised how many people still try it and then are surprised when they can't make it. All right, so do not drive through flooded roads. It's a recipe for failure and a recipe for disaster. And there's a high risk of that for today with all of this rain that we are getting from Debby as it makes its way up into the Carolinas. Take a look at rainfall totals so far. Now, this is just since midnight last night. And remember, this is a very slow moving storm. So even real deal rain hasn't reached our folks to the north and west and really even in the foothills yet. It's just creeping to the north at about 5 to 7 miles per hour. A little over 1.25 inches now in the rain gauge out of PTI, almost 2 inches in the rain gauge down in Asheboro at the airport there, closing in on about 3/4 inch in Lexington, almost 1 inch in Winston-Salem, over 1.75 inches in Burlington. You'll notice Siler City is only registering less than 1/4 inch, but I've got my hunch that those folks are pretty close to Asheboro in the 2-inch game there, and almost 2.5 inches over in Raleigh. There is still plenty more to go too as we go throughout the rest of the day. You'll see flash flood warnings are in effect for our entire Piedmont Triad area. Flood watches still remain to our north and west up over the foothills, but those flood warnings do encompass our area and a lot of south and eastern North Carolina. You see those big bands of rain pushing in. This is what we've been dealing with all morning since about 1 or 2 a.m. and it's really been raining heavy for several hours as well. Now, folks who've seen a busier morning of weather just to our east, the Raleigh area down into eastern North Carolina and coastal North Carolina have had numerous tornado warnings down there this morning, even since the early overnight hours. I'll show you a couple of confirmed tornadoes. This one in Wilson County near Lucama really tore up Springfield Middle School there. And what looked to be a very strong tornado could have been possibly the same tornado that also caused some home damage in Wilson County as well near the city of Lucama. Several homes were damaged or even destroyed there between Lloyd Road and Wiggins Mill Road and Governor Hunt Road. So there were a lot of folks that are dealing with cleanup, and there's been some pretty rough looking pictures that I've seen so far. So those folks will have a lot of cleanup left to do. For us now, the heavy rain, of course, pushing through the immediate Triad, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point, of course, down to Lexington, parts of Moxville. You see that getting those heavier rain bands. But notice to the south, I'll look down at Montgomery County, Troy, Biscoe, those folks are in a little bit of one of those breaks, but you'll notice there's more heavy rain to the south on the way. Also down in the Sandhills of North Carolina, getting a little bit of a break, but there will be plenty more rain on the way as we go throughout the rest of the day. Let's zoom in here a little closer to home and show you what I'm talking about. See, Asheboro has some general rain right now. Most of it is steady but light. Heavier rain now falling in Greensboro, over to Winston-Salem, down into parts of Davidson County, and down into Davie County near Moxville as well. So it's going to come in rounds. At times, it will be so hard that you can't even see as it comes down in sheets, and likely sideways at times too. So that's what we have to continue for the rest of the day. And all of this precipitation is on the north side of the system. Let me show you what I'm talking about. We do have a new update on Debby as of 8 o'clock this morning. And you'll notice it has picked up a little bit of forward motion at 7 miles per hour. Earlier, it was only at about 4 or 5 miles per hour. And the center of that storm now is into the Midlands of South Carolina. So all the rain and all the wind impacts are really on the north side of the storm. Once the center of circulation moves past us, going into tonight and into Friday morning, our weather's really going to improve, even if the area of low pressure hasn't exited our area just yet. And you can see what's happening here. You'll notice all the blues popping up and whites. That's all of those thunderstorms in those bands of Debby really just continuing to pop up and form. You'll notice to the south of the storm, things are much quieter. So folks in Georgia, down in Charleston, while they still may be dealing with some wind, pretty much the rain impact is over for those folks. This is rare to see. We have a level 4 high flood risk for us in the Piedmont for today, and we do not see that often. When you see this, you can bank on the fact that there's going to be some flooding issues across our area. And we've already seen some of that this morning, especially in the way of ponding on the roadways, hydroplaning, that sort of thing. Here's the latest track for Debby. It continues through the Midlands of South Carolina. It continues to weaken out over land. It's just a remnant area of low pressure by the time it reaches us early tomorrow morning. And it moves through our area, the heart of the triad, through very early Friday morning. Then it'll continue on to the north, pushing through Virginia tomorrow and leave some fine weather in its wake for us to enjoy as we go into Friday afternoon and into the upcoming weekend. Here's how Futurecast looks as we go through in time for the rest of the day. Again, those rounds of heavy rain and tropical downpours will continue. Here's some of those breaks I was talking about toward the evening hours. It rains really heavy, then it shuts off, and then we kind of rinse and repeat as we go into the evening. And that heavy rain will be possible at times all the way through the evening and even late tonight. Once we get into the overnight hours, though, look at what happens. This thing is finally starting to move out. Our rain does start to weaken down and taper off. We could have a couple of showers and some rain linger into early Friday morning. But by lunchtime, I think we're going to be in good shape, and we should start to clear things out pretty nicely for Friday afternoon and going into Friday evening. I think your weekend is really going to be in good shape. Of course, if you haven't noticed it yet, the Wyndham is moving all of those tee times today down to 3 o'clock. No spectators are allowed at the Wyndham today because of obvious reasons, but play should be fine tomorrow afternoon and for the weekend as well. So even though today is bad, I think the Wyndham's going to be okay by tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday. So far today, the highest wind gust we've recorded at a PTI has been 41 miles per hour. On a general rule, things have been anywhere from 25 to 35 for most of the day. You can expect to see these tick up a little bit through the middle of the day and into the afternoon. That's where I think we could see some 35 to possibly 45 mile per hour gust, but they don't linger very long. By this evening, by tonight, our winds are starting to die down again, and it's just typically breezy for us, if you will, with wind gusts on the order of about 20 to 25 miles an hour. Winds will continue to weaken out as we get into the morning and into the day on Friday. So Friday is really our day of improvement, if you will. All right, breaking it all down a little easier to understand here. 35 to 45 mile per hour gusts are what we expect here in the Piedmont Triad. A little bit lighter than that, 25 to 35 mile per hour gust up over the foothills and mountains, and higher than that, possibly still some 45 to 55, maybe even 60 mile per hour gust down at the coast. I still expect by the time we're done with this, we get up about 3 to maybe 6 inches of rain in the Piedmont Triad. Of course, higher amounts to our south and east, and only about 2 to 4 inches is what I expect for our friends and families up in the foothills and mountains. As far as power outages go, we've already seen several of those stacking up across the Piedmont. I still think it's not a huge widespread problem for the majority of people in our area. I do think it's more of a concern to our south and east, and only a few power outages expected up in the mountains and foothills. So it is something to pay attention to, but if you lose power, it likely doesn't stay off that long. We're very hopeful for that. We'll keep you posted. All right, here you go. For your Friday, take a look at this. We're talking about some rain possible in the morning. Once we get into the middle of the afternoon, things will get better. We're clearing it out. Temperatures tomorrow warm up into those mid and even some upper 80s possible by your Friday afternoon. And looking ahead into the weekend here, we're looking at mid 80s for Saturday and Sunday. Plenty of sunshine both of those days, and we really need some opportunity to dry things out here. I think we're finally going to be able to get that, not just for the weekend, but on into next week as well. Look at this. After today and really after early tomorrow morning, we sort of have the first half of your Friday as a News 2 weather impact alert day, just to account for some still lingering rain from Debby and the potential for a couple of high wind gusts. Wind relaxes, rain moves out. Friday afternoon is good. The weekend is good, and then a stretch of dry weather to dry things out that will be super soggy. Even after several days of dry weather, things will still be pretty soaking wet across the area, especially yards and that sort of thing. Dry weather does hang on, though, as we go into early next week. Our temperatures run just a little bit below normal. Average high temperature right now is 88. We'll end the weekend and go into early next week in the low to mid 80s.